Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful Littleton Historical Museum downstairs in the basement of the Littleton Opera House. So yeah, we got a good program this morning, and we're doing the barbershops. All right, because I was thinking about this. We've not been out for haircuts or beauty parlors or anything else. So why not do the barbershop? So this is our program today, the Barbers of Littleton, and I call it a cut above the notch. Isn't that clever? Okay, hey Barb, good morning. All right, so let's go on with the show. Well, we're going to talk about some of the barbers first. Now, I don't remember George Hoole at all. So I did a little research. He sold the shop in 1930. He was in business for 50 years. That brings George back to 1880 for being in the barbershop business. So we're going back to the Victorian age with George. Okay. He was in the Opera Block, not this building. This is the Opera House. The Opera Block is the Tilton Opera Block, where the radio station WLTN. Now, to give those of you who aren't familiar with the town, when you go into the double door in that brick building, now it is the building that it has a jewelry shop, an herb shop, it has clothing, it has a restaurant. So it's really quite a place. When you go in the double door, there, and you go into the lobby, over toward the right, you have a staircase that goes up, and then over toward the left, well, of course, the staircase would go up, wouldn't it? But over toward the left, you have, there's a door that goes into a large room. That's where the barbershop was. And actually, that large room was originally intended to be the entrance to another building in the back of the Opera House, which we now know as that's parking lot. So let's see who's here. I got Barb, I got Susan from Cape Cod. I have Travis, I have Mary Louise. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. So he formerly worked at the Saranac Glove Company, and for those of you who've been following us, that was our last program. And he became an apprentice to Frank Chattel. Now, and he went in after work. Now, remember, when you worked in the glove company, you worked a 10, 12-hour day. So this gentleman, George, went in after working a 10 or 12-hour day and cut hair. So he would learn how to cut hair and watched Frank. All right. In 1892, it says he bought and opened his own shop. Now, this is something that kind of like threw me a little bit because it said that in 1930 he was 50 years in the business, but yet it said in 1892 and bought. So this is what happened. I think I put this together. Frank closed down in 1892. So Frank and George worked together for about 12 years. Now, for 27 years, he was also in 1915, he was in the Oddfellows block. Now, for those of you who don't know where the Oddfellows block was, it was way before my time, way before all of our time. I mean, there was like 3 or 4 fires at the Oddfellows block. And that was, if you go to Main Street and you find the Thayers Hotel, go just beyond the Thayers, there's a bank there, and there's a parking lot. The Oddfellows was in the parking lot, okay? Now, in 1918, worked for Carlton Cross, bought the shop in 1921. George passed in 1940. Now, a lot of these dates really are a little bit confusing. I took this out of the 1984 Littleton history, so I'm going to blame someone else, which is probably a good thing for me to do at this point in time. Charles McCarthy, 53 years in business. Okay, that was in 1937. And this was kind of an interesting little piece that I liked, is that he had a customer. Now, back in the day, people used to go, men would go in and get their shave, especially if you were a businessman. So you went in every day for your shave. Charles Bingham, who was an undertaker in the town of Littleton, went in daily. And after 53 years, when he retired in 1942, with 58 years in business, it was figured that Charles Bingham had around 8,000 shaves from Mr. McCarthy. He then sold his shop to Umberto Marsiglia. Love that name, Umberto Marsiglia. All right, and we know him as Al the Barber. And this was once again, in the Tilton Opera House. Okay? Now, Homer Broder. How many of you out there remember Homer? I remember Homer. I mean, I've been in town 47 years, and I remember going to Homer when I first came to town. He retired in 1981, and he started business in 1936. In 1936, this was a piece that just totally blew me away. Littleton had 12 barbers at that time. 12. It's kind of like today. You can go get your nails done in Lord knows how many places. We have X number of banks, which are a whole bunch. And also, we're famous for our drugstores. So, today we have drugstores and nail salons. Back then they had barbershops. Now here's some additional barbers. There was John Parent. Now listen, we have a John Parent who follows us, and he doesn't follow me on this. He does follow Facebook, and I will have to let John know that I've mentioned his relative, okay? Cyprian Trombley, Pat Nardolillo, Jerry Patione, Tony Roy, Paul Anger, Frank Thibodeau, Mr. and Mrs. Anthony Lemieux, and that was Tony's Barbershop. But this is Sip Trombley. Folks, I've got to move this in so you can see it a little bit closer. Okay? Now, I love that picture. All right? Now I'm going to bring it back out so you can catch it a little bit when I'm going to hit. I have another button to hit. Now, we know where that was located. See the barber pole? And right just to the left of the barber pole, you see a little fence. And then at the end of the building, and where that white is, where I have barber pole and Sip Trombley, you notice that there is a space. Well, folks, that's the Ammonoosuc River. Because this property, that barbershop, was located actually across the street from us on Cottage Street. And it was right at the end where the bridge is, because where this photo was taken, the photographer was looking straight ahead at them, but if he looked over to his left, he was looking at the covered Cottage Street bridge. All right? So this was Sip Trombley. Oh my gosh, we have a dog in there. Mine. And Abby is saying, "Tell them the deer story, Dad." Okay, Abby, I will tell you the deer story. It's a great story. All right, so I am just going to zoom in, or try to zoom in right here, and I am going to tell you that story. Oops, I'm not zooming in. There we go. Sip did more than just cut hair there. He sold, there were other things, binoculars. I think he sold binoculars. I mean, he sold tobacco products. People did all sorts of stuff. Sip later, I'll get to the deer story in a second, but later Sip ended up opening up a business down on Main Street. And if any of you remember where Penix Appliance was located, and it was later the Nest, and now it is, what is it? It is called. They sell. It's a coffee shop, and I'm having a brain cramp right now. But that's where he had it, and there was also a pool hall in there. So he had a pool hall, a billiard room. Well, I'm going to tell you the story of the deer. Well, if you notice, it's a dirt road. Littleton had dirt roads. Even Main Street and Carter Street were dirt roads. So I'm putting this picture somewhere around the very early about 1900, 1905. All right? And here's how the story goes. There was a deer being chased. Started up near the Littleton High School, which is where it is still located. It was being chased by a pack of dogs, and the poor frightened animal just ran for its life. And then it was being followed by a pack of people. All these guys started chasing the deer, and the dogs chased the deer. Well, the deer came down and ran down Main Street, came down Cottage Street, did a turn at the stoplight, which the deer didn't care about the stoplights, and we didn't have stoplights at the time. That deer came down Main Street, took a right, and went right through the plate glass window. Okay? So you see there are three gentlemen there. There's one in the doorway, and the one over on our right. That's the plate glass. The deer jumped through and broke the plate glass window. Well, Sip had a butcher knife because he also sharpened knives. I mean, he had a strap on his chair, so he could sharpen his razors and everything. He took a butcher knife and chased a deer out through the broken window. The deer then took a left and headed back up toward Main Street. Now, where the Methodist church is, there used to be a house next door. It was Dr. Bogle's house. All right. So what had happened is that this, I can't remember, the Richardson boy, high school lad, and the newspaper article said he was a burly boy. He was a farm boy, and he could, wrestle anything down. Grabbed the deer. They wrestled it down, and Sip slit its throat. Well, there was a big to-do over who got the deer. First of all, the people who owned the dogs felt they should have the deer because it was the dogs that chased them. The guy who owned the first dog figured that he started it, so he should get the deer. All right? The guy who saw the deer first being chased by the dogs figured he should get it because he was the first one to chase the deer. All right? The Richardsons felt that they should get the deer because their son tackled the deer. Sip felt that he should get the deer because he's the one who slit the deer's throat. So they actually had to call the sheriff in to come in and take care of the situation of all these people arguing over a dead deer next to the Methodist church. They butchered the deer, and everyone got a piece of deer. All right? There wasn't an awful lot of deer left over, but, there was enough for a roast. Hi, Josh. Enough for a roast and a few other things out of it. So that was the deer story. And I'm going to, there we go. So that's the deer story about Sip Trombley. I have to get this semi-adjusted again. There we go. All right. So let's move onward. There's George Hoole and John Parent. All right. Now, here's an interesting thing. Take a good look at this. This is in the old Opera House block, which we still have. Okay. That's the barbershop in the Opera House block. Look at it carefully, because what I did is I did a little cropping with this photograph. All right. There's Lincoln. Wow, look at that. Look at all those shaving mugs. Yes, folks, look at you went in for a shave? And I'm sorry for this. I'm trying to move this around, and it's just kind of like. So you went in for a shave, and you had your shaving mug on a shelf. All right, isn't that just the coolest dang thing you've ever seen? I just think it's so cool. All right, I'm going to try to make this. There we go. Now, there are more. We had Bert Emery, Louis Thompson, Oscar Malinfant, Walter St. Cyr. So we're talking barbers from the 1920s, 30s, and early 60s. George Merrill, I knew George. Ken McCulloch, Bob Gadboy. All right, and Gene's Old Time Barbershop, Gene Tomlinson up on Apthorpe. Any of you remember Gene's Old Time Barbershop up on the in Apthorpe? I went to the Gene a few times, gave a nice haircut. And I don't have a dog. And you can tell. There we go. I'm not a dog. Moo. All right, now, this is a great picture. All right, we have a barbershop here in the museum, and I'm going to be giving a short tour of it. We have time to do this. So here we have Jerry Ames, okay, my dad, yeah, Dean Trombley, you got it. And that was Dean's great uncle, Zip. So we have Jerry Eames, and we have Elaine Tomlinson. And I have a story. All right, and I think I am going to zip this around this way, and I'm going to crank it up, and hopefully not make you folks motion sick. And just pardon this while I'm running this thing up and down and back and forth, because you folks really have to see our barbershop. And I'm going to go this way, and I'm not going to go so fast that you get whiplash. And plus, while you're looking, while we're doing this, you can kind of see what we have around here. We can see what the place looks like. There we go. We have a barbershop. What do you think of that, folks? All right. Now, all right, I wanted to do this because I want to show you the barbershop. And we did things kind of in a miniature. Remember the photograph I showed that had the shaving mugs in it? Well, we made sure up there on the corner we have shaving mugs. Now, I've got to tell you the story on this. You can see we have a barber pole that's operating. All right, I'm going to run it over this way so you can see the whole thing. All right, run it over this way. Oh, Betty popped in again. There she is. Always giving a piece of her mind. There we go. So I'm going to run this back over this way so you can take a good look. So I've got to tell you, and then I'm going to go back to the slideshow. All right? And I'm going to go out and stand out in here. Or I'm going to sit down. Am I centered?
No.
I don't have to be centered. Am I in it?
No. There you go.
There we go. I have Glenn's here, and we are really socially distant. As a matter of fact, the next place he's going, I'm opening the river, and he's going in the window, and he's going out into the river. All right. The chair, excuse me, the chair in which I'm sitting belonged to Al the barber. All right, and I have a story about the chair, which I'm going to do. So the chair was donated by Jerry Eames. Okay, and the reason why that last photograph shows Jerry and Elaine is because they donated quite a bit, so we could do this. And Jerry had the chair refurbished, and that's going to be a story in the next slide. And it sat out in the middle of the museum, and I said, we really need a barbershop. I need a barbershop. But we're kind of like, we have a good sized space down here, but we don't have endless space. So came up with a design, and he said, we can do a corner of a barbershop. And Jim Radmore, one of our volunteers, who's a retired tech teacher, we used to call it shop back in my day, and totally incredible with woodworking. We did some drawings and came up with stuff, and he did some building, and I did some painting, and we put together a barbershop. So I said, you know what we need? Can you see this? I said, we need a barber pole. And we were looking online for them, and I thought, I just don't want one online. So Joan Noyes, our volunteer, was at the senior center, and I think I've nicknamed her Radar. So she was listening to a conversation, overheard a conversation, and there were these ladies talking, and one of them said, yeah, my husband used to have a barber shop, and we still have the building, and we still have a lot of his things, and he passed a certain number of years ago. So then Joan said, do you have a barber pole? And it was Elaine Art, and she said, well, yes. She said, we're looking for a barber pole for the museum. Would you like to donate it? And Elaine said, yeah, that would be great. So I ended up with Elaine's phone number, gave her a call. Joan and I showed up. That is a Littleton barber pole, and it hung in Gene's old-time barbershop in Apthorpe. So this is something else that happened, all right, that we ended up getting. And I'm going to move my way around so we can get a little bit closer on things, and so it'll be a little bit more shaky going on here, okay? So we ended up with, see the stuff on all the items up there? Most of those belong to Jean, and some of them actually, we have another volunteer, Jan Maltese, and her brother collected items, and so they donated some things, all right? And down here, we have, those are Jean's clippers. We have Jean's smock. We have, I love this. See that? We have Jean's diploma from barber school, and here's the real ultimate coolest absolute. Oh, that came from Jean's barbershop. It's the thing that has the paper, goes around your neck so hair doesn't go down your shirt. There's Jean's graduation picture, okay? And to give you an idea of who's who in here, and I don't have everyone, okay? Top row, second from the left. That's Jean when he graduated from Barber College, okay? Now, to move forward on this, to go over this way, we need a little bit more room, so we devised a plan of just taking a dowel and hanging it so it looks like a window. But we got some wicked cool stuff. Before the electric razors, this is how they used to cut hair. This is from about 1895. And that's how it worked, all right? So we have a collection of hand clippers. We have an antique straight razor, all right? So this gives you an idea of what we have in our display, all right? Let's see, did I get everything? What do you think? Did I get everything? Other than Betty. Oh, we also have over here, down on the bottom shelf, which I think is great. See those books on the bottom shelf? Those are all Gene's. Those are all his books for how to cut hair. They're all from Barber College. Just so cool. All right, we have down there on the bottom shelf, we have also his a vacuum for taking the hair off your shoulders. All right. And then, so we have the waiting room. So that's the waiting desk. And this Life magazine is from June 1939. So our magazines aren't quite updated. But that's okay. Betty Davis doesn't mind. So now what I'm going to do is bring this back. But I want to have you look, a good look, a live look at this beautiful, beautiful barber's chair that used to belong to Al the Barber. And if you pull the seat up, which I'm not going to bother, I think the date on this seat is like 1923. So, I mean, this chair is almost 100 years old. It's 97 years old. Okay? And it's in absolute pristine condition, but there's a reason why. All right? So what I'm going to do, hold on to your hats. I'm going to bring this around. I only have one camera. So I'm going to bring this around so I can go back here. Okay? There we go. All right, so we have Elaine and Jerry. Jerry donated the chair. Jerry's he's a great patron of the museum. We're so appreciative. All right, so there's a photograph of the chair. This is before we had the barbershop. All right, the blue is the original color of the chair. That the blue was not redone. That's original. All right. So what would you call that? Robin's egg blue? I guess it would be. All right. So some people may know the name Mike Spaulding. So he refurbished. So the leather, the back and the seat were redone. They took the chair and drove it down to a company in Connecticut to have it re-chromed. So all the chroming has all been done within the past 4 years. The cow's back. I like cows. And as the cow says, it belonged to Al the Barber. How many of you out there remember Al the Barber? I just heard a ding. It's either the French fries are done or someone just sent me a message. So, we're at the end, and we did it. Hello? It says live. I'm going to assume that it's still operating. All right, so like us on Facebook, write a review, share with friends. All right, Instagram, TripAdvisory, give us a review. Don't forget Sunday morning music tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Now we're over. Thanks for checking out the museum. I will go and try to take care of the memory on this. Bye.